An unincorporated part of northwest Atlanta, Vinings is steeped in Southern charm and tradition. Established in 1993, the Vinings Historic Preservation Society is committed to restoring and maintaining the essence of Vinings. The primary mission of the VHPS is to preserve and maintain the Pace House, the Old Pavilion, and the Yarborough House.
Originally, on this exact same spot was a much larger house that was built by a man named Hardy Pace. Hardy Pace was the founder of Vinings. He won all of this land in a land lottery all the way into Buckhead. He was a vast landowner, and this is the area where his house was located.
Since its creation, the VHPS has had the Pace House named to the National Registry of Historic Places. They also educate the public on these historic sites and the people who helped establish Vinings.
Hardy Pace, his by trade, he ran the ferry across the Chattahoochee River. Of course, back then there were no cars, so everybody to cross the river, they had to take a ferry. They would drive their carts and horses, whatever, right up to the ferry, and he drove everybody across the river. He also had a grist mill on the river, and he owned a tavern, so he was quite a landowner. And that's why all of your streets from here on into Buckhead, so many of them are named Pace's Ferry, Pace's Mill, so that is why they're all named after Hardy Pace and his family.
During the Civil War, General William T. Sherman seized the home of Hardy Pace as use for a Union hospital. Just like much of Atlanta, the original 17-room mansion was burned to the ground in Sherman's infamous March to the Sea. The stone steps on the sides of the Pace House and the Old Pavilion are all that remain of the original foundations. Following the Civil War, the Western and Atlantic Railroad built 5 recreation halls to encourage tourism to Atlanta. The Old Pavilion is the only one that remains. It has since been restored and preserved and is now used for social gatherings, much like it was over 100 years ago.
People would get dressed up in all of their finery. They had very formal invitations, and they would get on the train and ride out to Vinings, which was the country back then, and they would picnic and party and dance in the pavilion all day, and at the end of the day they would get on the train and ride home.
The Yarborough House was built in 1880 for the granddaughter of Hardy Pace. In the early 1900s, the house served as a tea house for the sort of upper-class ladies of Vinings. In the 1970s, the house was purchased by Ruth Vanneman, who leased it for use as a restaurant, the famous Old Vinings Inn. In the mid-1990s, it was donated for use as the VHPS headquarters, and it has since been furnished to be historically accurate.
We use the Pace House today for all of our community events. We host several children's events throughout the year. We just had a fabulous egg hunt. We have storytellers over here, craft events for all the children in the community. We have historic lectures here, galas, little fairs, book sales. We have all kind of small fundraisers over here because it takes quite a lot of money to maintain and preserve these 3 buildings, and that is our mission.
For more information on the Preservation Society, visit their website at vinings.org.